Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into a practice that, honestly sounds like the ultimate buzzkill at first glance, but it's actually a profound key to a vibrant life. We're talking about Maranasati, the art of living through mindfulness of death. It's a Buddhist practice that takes our greatest human fear, our own mortality, and literally reframes it into our greatest tool for a more meaningful present existence. Let's get right into it. So, can thinking about the end actually improve your present? I know, it sounds completely counterintuitive, right? We spend so much of our energy and, frankly, build entire industries around avoiding the topic of death. But the text we're analyzing today introduces this absolutely fascinating paradox. The secret to finding true joy and deep presence might actually require us to stop looking away and to boldly contemplate our own mortality.
Which brings us to part one, the paradox of death, fearing versus accepting.
Okay, to really grasp how this works, we need to define Maranasati. Think of it as a sort of technological upgrade for the human mind. The source text defines Maranasati as a Buddhist practice of contemplating the inevitability of death and the impermanence of all things. Now, why on earth would anyone do this? Well, to live a more present, mindful life. Notice that direct connection there? It isn't some dark or morbid obsession. It's actually a highly practical lens. It uses the cold, hard reality of death to sharply focus our scattered attention right back on the here and now.
You see, our default setting as humans is to treat death like a shadow. We run from it, we're fueled by anxiety, and we constantly push the thought away through distraction and avoidance. But Maranasati flips this paradigm entirely. The text highlights a deliberate shift, moving away from that exhausting fear of death toward a complete, natural acceptance of it as just part of life. Embracing the end rather than outrunning it is the exact mechanism that fosters a much deeper appreciation for the very breath you're taking in this exact moment.
Let's move on to section 2, the core of Maranasati and its key aspects. In practice, this functions a lot more like a carefully balanced ecosystem rather than a rigid checklist. First, actively contemplating the possibility of death isn't meant to drag you down. It creates a healthy, mindful urgency. And that urgency naturally triggers our second point, an intense appreciation for life. Suddenly, a mundane Tuesday morning feels like a rare gift. Of course, getting to that point requires overcoming an internal resistance, a wall we all put up. But as we push through that wall, the final result is a deeply cultivated mindfulness. This awareness inherently snaps our attachments to past regrets and future anxieties, locking us right into the present.
That brings us to section 3, facing the resistance, a natural challenge.
Look, if grappling with these concepts feels difficult, you're entirely normal. The human mind is literally hardwired for survival. Our biology screams at us to avoid anything that threatens our existence. So sitting down to intentionally contemplate death, that goes directly against our primal programming. But Maranasati encourages us to step right into that discomfort. It asks us to gently but firmly dismantle our mental armor. It takes immense courage to intentionally face the reality of our own mortality, for sure, but breaking down those specific defenses is the necessary gateway to unlocking a vastly superior way of living. And that leads us perfectly into section 4, the transformational benefits for a better life. So when you do the hard work of dismantling that resistance, the first profound shift you'll notice is a massive drop in baseline anxiety. The text shows us that becoming highly familiar with the idea of death significantly reduces the fear surrounding it. Think of it like turning on the lights in a dark room. By pulling our ultimate fear out of the shadows and examining it in the daylight, it completely loses its power to terrify us. Actually, facing it head-on paradoxically disarms it. And without that looming anxiety constantly draining your background energy, you unlock a fierce, undeniable presence. When you stop pretending you have an infinite amount of time, you stop wasting the time you do have. Acknowledging the fleeting nature of existence doesn't make you reckless. It actually leads to a much more mindful way of living. You aren't lost in yesterday, and you aren't paralyzed by tomorrow. You're anchored right here, genuinely experiencing life exactly as it unfolds. Which brings us to a really beautiful, grounding realization, the total acceptance of impermanence. Maranasati helps us deeply understand that absolutely everything is subject to change and decay. And this goes far beyond just our own lifespans. It applies to relationships, careers, moments of joy, and seasons of sorrow. Everything is in motion. When we truly accept impermanence, we stop fighting the natural flow of the universe. We stop clinging. Instead, we find a profound, unbreakable peace in the knowledge that all things are temporary. Ultimately, everything we've explored today culminates in a dramatically improved quality of life. We're talking about moving from a state of low-grade, constant existential dread to a place of total acceptance. Cultivating this specific mindfulness leads to a far more meaningful and fulfilling life. This isn't just some ancient philosophy meant to be studied in a monastery. It's a practical, immediate tool. It's about creating a richer, more joyful daily existence right here, right now, by totally embracing the truth of our limits.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a thought to carry into the rest of your day. Ask yourself, how does acknowledging your fleeting existence change how you view this exact moment? If you truly internalize that your time is finite, how does that shift your experience of the simple breath you're taking right now? Keeping the end in mind might just be the absolute best way to truly begin living. Thanks so much for joining me to explore this profound practice.